All right, I believe that we're live now. So, guys, thank you so much for joining us today. People in Zoom and also the ones who are watching us in YouTube and LinkedIn. My name is Kate from InnMind, and yeah, thanks a lot for being with us. From the general introduction to the session today, I'd say the last couple of years were not the best in terms of the overall status of the industry with the long bear market and all the ups and downs that we see in the charts even today. However, the market already started to show some signs of the recovery and the upcoming altcoin season. And we see this within InnMind, not just from the market data, but also from the sentiments that we see from the VC funds and investors from our network, as well as many Web3 startups, which were actually postponing their TGs and IDOs during the last couple of years, and now are finally getting ready for the launch and for their go-to-market in Q4 already this year. So this is definitely something we should be proud of and work towards this goal. And I'm very happy to have Janina Pietrowska today with us, a special invited guest for this workshop to talk actually about all the major aspects about a compliant utility token offering and all the fundamentals that you guys need to know when it comes to choosing the best jurisdiction for your IDO, what types of documents you need to have in place in order to launch it, what are the current regulation challenges that we will most surely face on the way, and so on and so forth. So thank you so much, Janina, for joining us today. And yeah, passing all the mic to you, to your side.
Thanks a lot, Kate. Thanks a lot. Thanks for coming, guys, and thanks a lot for being flexible again. Just as I told, my little son brought quite a terrible flu from a kindergarten, and the whole family is fighting with it for the last couple of weeks. But yes, I can totally confirm and relate to Kate, to what Kate has just mentioned. I've been in this space, blockchain, fintech, crypto, not even called Web3, 2017, 2018. I've seen the ICOs, they used to be called at that time, the utility token offerings. And I can confirm that we see the market recovering, we see the project starting, getting let's say prepared for their token offerings, and there are also certain major developments on the regulatory side. I mean, the European regulation MiCA, which kicks in end of the year, and that's why it could be also relevant for some of the projects. But I would just share my presentation and walk you through the let's say the steps for preparation for your utility token offering, and specifically the regulatory compliance part of it, just one by one. Yep. Can you see my screen now?
Yeah, all great.
Oh, great. Oh, great. I start I do this way. Yep. So, yeah, I am Janina Pietrowska, founding partner of ZÜGERLAW. We've done over 100 various projects, both Switzerland and Liechtenstein. We also do sometimes cross-border projects. We have entities and projects operating both Switzerland, Liechtenstein, part of the European Economic Area, let's say EU, and some of the offshore jurisdictions. And we are, and that's why I could give you some insights on operating with some of the offshore entities too. This is, of course, an introductory overview of what you need to know, and for sure we recommend all of the projects to seek some of the legal advice in the jurisdictions in the countries where they're going to have their token offerings. That's what we are going to discuss. What are the major steps of utility token offering? What you have to keep in mind when doing the issuance yourself and with a launchpad. What is important when you choose a jurisdiction? What is important to continue? And then I will also give you a short overview about requirements under MiCA, the European regulation, which kicks in end of the year. What are the requirements? What should be in white paper? What are the exemptions that you could possibly use? Yeah. So let's do it. Utility token offering is, in my opinion, just a way of fundraising from economic perspective, where you offer the token, giving access to platforms, certain features, while the project doesn't actually exist. So in economic terms, it is really a fundraising. And that's why it is quite a project. I mean, I wouldn't compare it with the same amount of time, money, and efforts that you need to do an IPO, but it is like a small IPO, because it consists, in my opinion, of the following parts. And the most important is investors relations, marketing, and community building, because this is crucial for distributing the token together with working with a launchpad. The technical token issuance is not a rocket science, and I would say the same actually about regulatory or compliance parts, because at least on a let's say European continent, it is more or less clear how we treat utility tokens, when they are utility tokens and when they are not, when they fall under securities, under MiFID's regulatory framework in Europe. And it is let's say not that complicated, and normally legal and regulatory steps include choosing a place for setting up an entity, having an entity, having legal opinion for the token, request for no action letter from a regulator if this is applicable, if this is needed at all. Yeah, these are actually major steps from the regulatory perspective. But the most, in my opinion, the most focus should be really on the investors relations, marketing, and how you're going to distribute the token, because to issue it from legal and technical perspectives is one thing, and to be able to successfully distribute it to find investors, purchasers for that is, in my opinion, much more difficult job than legal and technical, judging just by the experience of the project that we have supported so far. So just an overview, what utility tokens normally have as features. They normally have some kind of marketing rewards for participation in community activity, often means of exchange within an application, adopt a certain platform, governance tokens. So any kind of really feature which allows to use the product. What are the red flags, and what's definitely no-go for utility token, or for token to be considered a utility token and not a security, and not and not a security in the meaning of financial regulation of any country, which I know at least the continental Europe, is not to promise any kind of investment, not to promise any kind of return, not to promise a buyback, because this would be then close to banking deposits. Yeah, no kind of return, either than in the same tokens, nor in fiat, nor in neither in fiat nor in crypto. So these are major red flags where we say, guys, this is not a utility token. This would make your token clearly a security. It is not a strategy. Having a security token itself, in a lot of situations, it is justified when you offer the shares of the company or portions to your revenue stream. It's okay, but then you should just consider it would be much more complicated to find an exchange which would list it, because the security tokens, for tokenized securities, so far we do not really have regulated secondary market, or we have very few platforms which are licensed and allowed to do so. So we used to see in the past a lot of self-issuances, and this is much more work, in my opinion, and it has, of course, both advantages and disadvantages. For self-issuance, you do all of the documentation itself, while a launchpad might have already templates, standardized procedures, how they work, and issuance of a launchpad normally gives you access to the audience of the launchpad, to the investors, which already know the launchpad, and which this is, in my opinion, major advantage. But the disadvantages are you have less flexibility. But well, in my opinion, this is quite fair because you use the resources of the launchpad, and then of course you're able to dictate their conditions. So what you normally need on a private sale stage is a called simple agreement for future token SAT. And then at the later stage, when you do the public offering, we would really recommend to have the legal opinion about the token itself, sometimes also about the project and the project business model, white paper. Depending on the regulators, these has been an example of Rapperswil Liechtenstein, you have to submit a notification. And then if you do it on your own, you have terms and conditions, you have privacy policy, you have the KYC, and you have to do the KYC yourself, while in case with Launchpad, it's normally done by the Launchpad. It has technical features, capabilities to do so. And in any case, most likely you need an entity which would accept the funds, which would operate your project, and having an entity in most of the countries I know requires a certain kind of substance, a workplace, a local administrator, basic accounting, and taxation. Yeah, these are all of the benefits of working with Launchpad. Major are the audience of the Launchpad, the users, the investors. So when talking about choosing a country, jurisdiction to set up an entity, if you do a utility token offering, I always suggest look at your target investors. If we talk about US, we normally, regarding utility token offering, it is still unclear. They're still complicated in the US. In the US, it's better actually to wrap your token as a security, because then at least you know which kind of exemptions you can use. Because with utility tokens, they have these home tests, the tests that they apply, which differs a lot. This is a concept of what is considered to be security, and it differs a lot from what we have in a continental law system, where we say security is what is named in a law as security, or what is similar at least to what's named in law, while in the US it is everything which can have an increase in value, or where an investor can expect an increase in value. And that's why there have been so many cases, suits against Telegram, I guess, was one of the most known against the issuers of the utility tokens when they targeted US persons. Then, of course, look if there is any kind of regulation for utility token offerings, if there is traction of, I don't know, token offerings, any blockchain projects which operate from those jurisdictions already, because this would show you how much experience the regulator has with those projects, which makes normally life easier. What are the overall costs of running a business, including taxes, accounting, workplace, local director, etc., and whether this would make sense economically for you to run business from this country. What are the economic and doing business conditions in general? Talk to the projects on site, talk to the projects which operate in their jurisdictions, whether they're happy And yeah, these are the jurisdictions that we operate. We normally work with. Our home jurisdictions. This is Switzerland, which has been known for being extremely crypto friendly. We celebrated just yesterday 10 years of Ethereum, which has its foundation in Zug, in the heart of the crypto valley. Advantages that we have a well-developed ecosystem, which has been considered by CoinDesk the most mature ecosystem for crypto projects. These advantages are quite high costs. It depends a lot on the providers that you engage. If you engage some of the top law firms and trustees, then of course it's going to be a lot. If you engage smaller but still experienced providers, yeah, you could have lower costs, I guess. With us, for just to give an example, with us founding and running a company could be around 10-15K per annum. Doing so with I don't know, any of the big four of larger law firms and trustees could be 50K plus per annum. Liechtenstein is just an hour away from Zurich, still considered to be part of the crypto valley. Tiny state, we have only 40,000 people, part of the extended EU, EA, also low taxation, also crypto friendly, also part of the whole ecosystem. Both Swiss and Liechtenstein banks work with projects in both countries. And there are over 30 banks, over 30 crypto friendly banks right now, which work with those projects. And the most important, Liechtenstein is also part of, as part of the EEA. We are going to have MiCA, the European crypto regulation, from the end of, no, not from the end of the year, from February coming year. But we are getting ready already right now for example, the so-called crypto asset service providers. The regulator started accepting applications on the 1st of October. And the same, it depends on provider whom you engage with. We run entities, associations for DAOs, with overall costs like 10-15K, while again, the same if you engage with larger providers, could be 20-30K plus per annum. What we also use sometimes, especially in the case of DeFi projects, which are in a gray area from regulator perspective, but founders need practical solution, pragmatic solution to separate the risks from themselves, at least having kind of entity, not to be personally liable in case if something goes wrong, if funds get, if the project gets hacked, funds get stolen. And what we have seen in the past, they've been like Cayman and BVI have been used a lot, but then they introduced new regulations and it has become more complicated to operate from there. And some of the go-to jurisdictions which are not regulated so far, which are still used by some of the projects, are St. Lucia. As far as I remember, setting up an entity, something like 5K, which is almost the cheapest option you can get at the market at all. And it is completely unregulated still. Same with Panama, starting from 5K, also almost no regulation, but that's how let's say offshore countries still make their living. That are the USPs, that they do not have any regulation. You can have this offshore entity, and sometimes there is, from pragmatic perspective, founders still need somehow to separate the risks of personal liability from themselves. They use those legal wrappers in more or less exotic jurisdictions. So talking about MiCA, European regulation, it enters into application end of the year. Then there is also a transition period, which differs from country to country. Sometimes there is no, on average, is from 6 to 18 months. Why it is important for you? For issuance of utility tokens starting end of December 2024, 2025, there will be issue applications similar to those of issuers of security when you do a public offering, that you have to get a prospectus registered. Compared to that, white paper doesn't need to be registered with a regulator, but it has certain content, and as a, let's say, a nice work, we have prepared already a nice template of the white paper. And I say to the project, if you plan your token offering this autumn, end of the year, I would really suggest that you comply on a voluntary basis, that you already include all of the things in your white paper, which makes it easier for you than if you would like to list with major exchanges that you already have the white paper, because that's what they would require anyway, starting from January 2025 for sure, or most of them will. There are certain exemptions when the tokens are offered for free, auto-created, non-fungible tokens, but be extremely careful. Most of the tokens I know are called non-fungible, but they are fungible from economic and technical perspective. Offered to fewer than 150 natural legal persons per EU country, and less than 1 million over 12 months. It's only for qualified investors. These are exemptions which are really similar to EU prospectus regulation for issuing securities. What about the white paper? It depends on how you structure it, but the necessary information altogether from 15 to 20 pages. It's all written in the MiCA, Article 6 and in Annex 1. It takes some time to fill it in, but it's just a work which needs to be done, just a part of the project which needs to be done. It should include information about the issuer, details about the token, how you intend to conduct the public offering, rights and obligations associated with the token, information about technology, disclosure of risks, impacts on climate, and the persons involved in the management bodies. Altogether, as I said, 15 to 20 pages detailed information on a project, token, management, related risks. What is important to take into account, if you issue before the end of the year, you can use the offshore entity and start listing with EU licensed exchanges, and this will be okay. What you should really keep in mind that starting from 2025, if you use an offshore entity or a third country entity like Switzerland, it's depending on the transition period from 6 to 18 months, it can become more complicated to, I mean, issuing a token from non-EU entities, okay, but to try to list it on European exchanges will be more complicated. So if you plan your token offering, let's say rather 2025, then I would think about issuing from an EU entity rather than offshore entity. These are just a couple of practical considerations. Part of that, I think we are done with a major overview. you would, I guess you would receive the link anyway to book a consultation for me if you need one. We're also going to share the template of the white paper that we have crafted so far. And right now we could discuss your questions right away.
Yeah, Janina, thank you so much for this overview. Indeed, I mean, when you think about, building a project itself by itself, it's complicated, but complying and matching both sides, like the project, the tech, and the legal, this is where it gets interesting.
Yeah, it's all, take it all as a project. It all has certain steps which you plan, put into your to-do tool, and then execute one by one. There is no magic.
100%, yeah, but yeah, that's why thanks to you, we have this amazing specialist who can help on the way, and clarify lots of things, what needs to be done and what needs to be on the table in order to make it right. So guys, yeah, please feel free to unmute yourself. Don't hesitate to bring up your cases, your questions, whether you're planning a TG this year or next year. Maybe have any specific questions to Janina or anything you'd like to mention?
Do you plan any of the token offerings? Riskman, go ahead.
Hello and good afternoon. So my question, it has to do, I have a project that I'm trying to raise funds before anything else. So my question is more generic than specific, but it also affects my project. Is that when a token is going to be characterized as a security? So, for instance, because right now the trend, up to now at least, for the altcoins is to offer some kind of rewards in terms of revenue share or buyback and burns. And from my understanding, both of those cases are going to be characterized as security for the token.
Well, it depends. Again, the typical lawyer's answer. It depends. For example, if you receive rewards with, let's say, native staking, for example, it looks like you receive rewards, you're being rewarded for staking activities, but at the end of the day, these luckily doesn't really is not treated by regulators so far as banking deposit or as securities. But if a token gives promises and is going to give returns in, let's say, either fiat or cryptocurrencies different than this token or different than utility tokens, then it's a point where it gets tricky. And some of the projects are either operating without an entity at all or operating with an offshore entity, operate in a gray area. That's just the way it is. Because, yeah, sometimes founders believe they can take those risks.
Yeah. Yeah, okay. No, understandable. So the best course of action in terms of longevity of a project is to avoid having this kind of promises or this type of interactions with the possible investors or buyers of the holders of the token.
Yeah, if you operate in let's say EU, mostly EU or US, most likely those tokens are going to be qualified as securities. And then you have to look at the risks that you take operating by an offshore entity. Sometimes it helps, sometimes it doesn't, because the regulators still tend to in a worst case scenario reach out and grab to the founders themselves. So it is a matter of if and when the regulators are going to reach out to grab you. And well, with the security, legislation. In a lot of EU countries, there are exemptions where so-called crowdfunding exemptions, when you can raise funds. Maybe you can make use of those exemptions. It is not necessarily that having a token wrapped as security is bad per se. It's not. There are certain examples.
It is funny. I will use the word funny that you mentioned crowdfunding, because my platform is going to do exactly that. Is going to be a crowdfunding platform with focus on already established businesses, small and medium sizes. One of the issues that it's very specific. Never mind. I don't want to consume your time in this.
Okay.
I will book. I will book I will book a consultation with you.
Okay, good. That's good. Then we could discuss it in more details, because again, I mean, having a token and wrapping it as a security is possible, but you can just, if you're going to target people in EU, you have to be you have to keep in mind the exemptions targeting qualified investors using this crowdfunding exemptions, depending on the EU country. It could be from 1 million to 8 million, which you can raise while you're talking with a security. But then you just have to take it to have it written this way in the documents, that you make use exactly of these exemptions. So whenever the regulator in a specific country reaches out to you, you can say, we use these exemptions. This is legit.
Okay.
Yes.
Thank you very much.
Tor?
Good question. We already are setting up songwriters, and we are issuing security tokens. That's security tokens where they get the royalties instead of dividends. We're already doing that in Wyoming under 38 and 50. And we have set up a Swiss association with turnover less than, I think it was 20 million Swiss franc, where you don't have to set up such a legal structure because you don't need any auditing. However, we want to be able to register in a European legislation like Switzerland, because some of our customers or clients through white label solutions are touring in the US, and they are, as long as they're touring longer than a certain amount of days, they are in a total different legal setting than if they are in a foreign country based as such. I know that you cannot register in Switzerland unless you are a Swiss registered company. Will you be able to circumvent that with a Swiss association, for instance?
Oh, I didn't really get the last question. Maybe we would need to.
Will you be able to collect all the royalties in a copyright in Europe by using a Swiss association like the FIFA model, for instance? So because you cannot register a copyright in Switzerland without being a registered company in Switzerland, as I understand.
Yeah, that's true. Association can be used for that. The question is whether you offer everything or you intend to offer anything in EU in any kind of tokenized form.
Well, it's that's where it's getting a little bit complicated, because the short version is that Spotify are paying for Mamma Mia in Sweden royalties, right? That if the registration of Mamma Mia is in as did post in Wyoming, it will be a part of a serious limited liability company. And as such, the royalties are handled or are looked upon as securities because they, to compare it with a limited normal corporation, it is dividend. Royalty is dividend in this case. So if it's set up in Switzerland, will it also be regarded as dividend, or will it be regarded as royalties? Because that's two different legal or
yeah, that's again the typical lawyer's answer. It depends on how structured. I truly believe that in case you would like to tokenize the royalties or future no participation in future, let's say, revenue streams, which is really similar from legal perspective, this would make, of course, those token securities. But then
I know it's a very new setup in Switzerland as well, but the reason I'm asking that is that we, together with the International Music Council, has gotten a grant of 200,000 euro from the EU Commission, and we can set everything up in Wyoming. We have set up in Estonia, but some of the customers or the clients does not are looking at getting this in a legal framework. First, at this point, you probably heard all the legal actions against AI, the artificial intelligence, generative music. And if they are registered as a company, they have a total different legal standing. No problem in the US, big problem in Europe.
Yes, it is. I mean, I think there are lots of issues involved. It would be maybe, I still didn't, do you have an association set up in Switzerland, or do you have an entity? You do have already. I didn't get what was a specific,
I think we do. Don't waste everybody's time. Why don't I book a half an hour call with you, and we can do it there.
That's
not
really,
everybody
really
else is interested.
And if you, I mean, we are under attorney client privilege anyway. If you send any information to us, it would be maybe good if you, it would be really much more productive if you already have some information on what is done and put your specific questions in writing. Then I would be like much more prepared and we could discuss those specific questions.
Here is my that's my email. Send me just an email. I'll send you some more information, and we can book a meeting somewhere down the line.
Great. Thank you, Lord. I'm copying it. Yeah.
Unless there are others that are interested in the same, I will leave now.
No, I think this is quite specific case. Yeah. We had a case already with tokenization of, let's say, IP rights, because if you talk about music, it goes, these are mainly the IP rights which are being tokenized, and then the question is, if you attach any kind of income to those IP rights, are they still just IP rights, or they could be already qualified as securities? In my opinion,
we want them to be qualified as securities, so that's not the issue. They are securities, and as such they should be treated because they have a total different legal protection. Yeah. And one other thing is that they are totally intrinsic because they represent the flow of royalties of internet content, and without content there are no internet. With that, I leave you guys. Thank you very much.
No, that's good. That's very interesting. I really love the topic of tokenization of IP rights. I think this is really a great use case. Let's talk about it.
Thank you, Thor. Thank you so much for joining. Yeah.
Thank you a lot.
Any other questions, guys? Yeah. Let's use the remaining minutes if you have any specific case you'd like to discuss. think everybody's just still digesting the topic of the IP rights.
No, that's quite complicated, but I love it. It's really one of the great use cases, how things can be tokenized, tokenizing the stream rights, tokenizing the IP rights, and then all of the payment streams, they can be optimized, which makes the whole thing really efficient.
100%, yeah. Okay, so I see no questions for now. I think, yeah, either still digesting the content or everybody already booked your calendar for a week in advance. But yeah, I think then we can wrap it up. I see that we've seen like also some reactions in live streams, so I hope that you guys will have productive private conversations with Janina to discuss your personal cases. And as promised, once we finish this call, we will follow up shortly with the presentation content, with the special link to book the free consultation call, as well as the white paper template for your own use in case you need to see the structure and work on this yourself and the back end. So thank you so much, everyone who joined and listened today. Janina, you're the star. Thank you so much for bringing those insights to us today. And yeah, wishing everybody a great evening. And until next time, until next workshop. Thank you.
Thank you a lot for having me, guys. Thank you a lot.